I found Aimpoint through work. These are the optics that I trust in my life. As a patrol cop, as a detective, we switched Aimpoints about a small portion of my career. So we went to a different manufacturer. It failed me at the worst possible moment where it was a life or death moment. From then on, I said, I will never shoot anything other than Aimpoint. Yeah, Aimpoint optics for like pistol, that P2, it's been beat up. It's been in the mud. It's been in the sand. It's been in the snow. I have yet to break the glass. The original one that I got is still on the gun. They're robust. It's exactly what you need for the sport.
Welcome to Aimpoint's Taking Aim podcast. I'm your host, Rich Nance. Here we'll take a deep dive into firearms culture and the Second Amendment lifestyle. From hunters to veterans, competitive shooters, police officers, tactical trainers, 2A advocates, and even some well-known celebrities, we'll cover it all. Today I'm joined by Katie Batiste and Ivan. Katie is a physical therapist, a CrossFit coach, and a tactical games champion. And Ivan is a first-generation American. He's a SWAT cop, he's a detective, and he runs his own training company. And oh, by the way, they're both members of Team Aimpoint. Katie, Ivan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So, there's a lot to get into with your guys' experience. I mean, it's crazy. I'm surprised you even have time to sit down with us, but we certainly appreciate that. But I want to talk a little bit about the tactical games and also get your guys' unique perspective on that stuff. So, Katie, with you, maybe we could start out because from what I've learned about you is sort of like you got into firearms so that you could be comfortable, carrying a firearm and manipulating a firearm and stuff. And here you are, a few years later, national champion. I mean, how did that happen? Like, what sparked your initial interest? Was it like defensive purposes? And then how did you get to where you are today as a professional shooter and competitive athlete?
Yeah, so about 3 years ago, I just decided I wanted to get my concealed carry license just for personal protection and just learn something new. But I had no prior training or experience with firearms. And I knew if I wanted to own a gun that I wanted to be confident and proficient in using it. So I just started kind of Googling like local classes, firearms training courses. And of course, like once you start Googling something, your whole like phone algorithm just changes. So
yeah, you're getting bombarded.
I'm getting bombarded with videos on social media of shooting sports and self-defense courses and that sort of thing. One thing that just kept popping up over and over again was the tactical games. And I thought it looked super cool. And a lot of people say that from the outside, it looks like CrossFit with guns. And it's not entirely wrong. And I have a background in CrossFit, so I was immediately intrigued. And I've always been drawn to competition since I was a kid. So anytime I can turn something into a competition, I'll do that. So that competitive aspect of it came really naturally to me. And at the time, I didn't have anything specific that I was training for. You tend to get kind of bored with your fitness if you don't have any goals on the horizon. So it gave me a new, exciting challenge to work towards. So I guess my goal of just owning a gun for self-defense very quickly changed to wanting to compete. And then shortly after, I was introduced to Ivan and I was competing a few months later.
Very quickly. That's awesome. I wonder, and we'll get into more of this later, but I wonder if the majority of competitors in the tactical games have like that fitness background like you did, and then they just bolster their shooting, or if there's people who are shooters and they really need to bolster their fitness, because obviously it's a combination of both. But very interesting stuff, Katie. I can't believe that you just started shooting that short of a time ago. But obviously you're very motivated. You have great teachers, and you're an excellent student, or you wouldn't be where you are. So that's awesome. Ivan, so you have a family in law enforcement, right?
Yes, sir. Long history of them. Yep.
So it was like, did you know at a young age that that's what you were going to do for a living?
Oh, yeah. I mean, pretty much the earliest picture you can find of me. Like it's going to be me dressing up as a cop or just trying to follow my dad's footsteps or the family.
That's awesome, man. And you're first generation American, right? Where are you from, or where is your family from?
So first generation born here. My father's from a small island in Colombia where nobody leaves. My grandpa went to go visit for about a week, and then 30 years later, he was still there. So just that's kind of like the family story on that side. My mom's from a small village in El Salvador. So both from real small towns where people just don't leave. So it's kind of crazy to think about the overall picture that I'm sitting here having an interview for Aimpoint overall.
Yeah. Living the American dream for sure, man.
Yes,
So,
sir.
are you still talk a little bit? I know, being a retired police officer, I get that you can't say a lot of stuff, but are you still on the job? You still working police officer?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've been
Oh,
working
wow.
long nights, early mornings.
Ugh,
I mean,
I
to,
remember
to include
that.
this week. Yep. Yeah,
Hey, I've
it's been
been retired for a
fun.
couple years now, and I'm not that great at retirement because I'm still doing a lot of things. But you know, I'm glad I'm not working swing shift or graveyard. I'll tell you that. Or having to
Yeah.
go to court after working a graveyard shift. I get how all that goes. So how did you guys meet and come to train together? How did that happen?
It was around the same time I was going down that like rabbit hole of Googling and researching everything there was to know about the tactical games. I was having a conversation with some people at my gym at the time, and they mentioned Ivan and his dad, who were putting together this training program, which has now become ORTAC. But at the time, it was just kind of a vision. It hadn't come to life quite yet, but they invited me out for a range day, just kind of run through like a trial class, I guess. We're kind of figuring it all out together. But I didn't even have a gun at the time, but I was like,
Okay, so
yep,
you were really new. I mean,
I was
you were
brand
yeah,
new.
really new.
Like I was like, I'll be there, but I bought my Glock the day before. Didn't know how to use it. I showed up. It was like 7 a.m. on a freezing cold November morning. It was still dark outside. I don't know why we were there that early. But it was then that I was introduced to Ivan and his dad, and we just kind of hit the ground running. We went through some fundamentals, like just some basic pistol stuff, some basic drills, and then they had us run an obstacle course that they had built in their backyard. That was
So yeah, you hit the ground running,
entirely
literally.
too difficult
Yeah,
and too long. And I just
yeah.
tried to survive and try not to hurt myself. But yeah, since then, I've been, any chance I get, I'm at the range training with them, and any classes they offer, I'm there. Now I'm at the point where I'm kind of helping with some of the classes. And so he's taught me everything I know when it comes to competitive shooting.
Awesome. That's a great story. Ivan, how would you describe the tactical games to some of our viewers or listeners who may not have any idea what that is?
So the simplest way I can kind of explain that, because I try to get people into the sport, and to be honest with you, it's a tough sport to get into because you have to convince people, hey, you got to work out, and then you got to convince people, hey, you got to shoot, and then you got to shoot small targets far away, and they're like, you got two camps of people: people that just want to shoot fast at something up close, or people that just want to shoot far and don't want to move at all. So when it comes to like tactical games, I kind of explain it as athletic two gun, where it's just like you are going to be tested physically, you're going to be tested mentally. If you think you can shoot, it's probably going to open your eyes because it did for me. And I'm sure you know this from being a cop, but a lot of the times in the police world, we train for liability, not survivability or proficiency.
Well
So
stated.
that right, and I think there's a culture shift that's happening. It needs to happen all around. But for me, that was like the eye-opening moment. So my buddy, long story short, is my buddy on the SWAT team, just like, hey, there's this cool sport out there. Let's go try this out. And I was like, okay, here I am, young. I carry a gun for a living. I can shoot. I go there. I mean, we hold our own, but it was like, nope, not as good as you think you are. And I love that. I love that feeling. Uh, and that pretty much just kind of sparked this idea where like, whoa, this perfectly intertwines with my profession, how good I want to be and how good I want to make people. So that's kind of from there, Ortac was born. And from there, I met Katie, which she kind of explained she was the original guinea pig. Now she's a full, full grown animal.
The formula works, right?
Sure.
So, no, that's cool. A lot of cops, in my experience, are dismissive of competitive shooting. Oh, that's not for the streets and everything else. And a lot of that, I think, is just complacency or ego, or they don't want to put themselves out there. They don't want to risk, looking foolish, or they don't want to face the fact that maybe their training has been more qualification based than, learning based and skill based. So yeah, I commend you for that, because there's a lot of cops that are not willing to recognize that there's a lot of things that you can learn from competitive shooting that are transferable. Like, not everything is, of course, but if you've been a cop for a while, and with your SWAT experience and all that stuff, you have a good idea of what's transferable and what to leave kind of in the competition arena. So it's going to do nothing but make you better, obviously. And I think that's a great combination. And I don't know a ton about the tactical games other than what I watch, online and stuff, but it seems like it's much more based in reality than some of the other competitive shooting sports.
Yeah, there's interesting, like, to call it the tactical games. Like, I'll be honest with you, there hasn't been anything tactical that's taken place in these competitions.
I get that part.
But there is a lot to be learned, and I had this conversation yesterday with some of my work buddies. So I'm very big in competitive shooting. I think competitive shooting is the only place where you can truly test your skills, develop them, and nobody gets hurt. And I kind of equate this to fitness, right? So a lot of times we'll squat heavy, we'll bench press heavy. None of these things translate to real life performance, right? So it's like there's never a situation where I'm going to sit here and bench a whole bunch of weight or squat something, right? But the muscles that we develop and kind of like the engine that we built as a part of that movement translates to actual real life performance, not the actual movement itself. So what I mean by that is, in tactical games, even though we're shooting small, tiny triangles at, who knows, 200 yards or whatever from these wacky positions, although that doesn't translate to a gunfight, to me, it's allowed me to be able to process rooms as I enter better, right? I can think better under stress. I know where my threshold for, like, when I'm getting red line or getting into that black where I need to back down a little bit. Case in point, earlier this week, we had a shooting in one of our popular areas, and we're out there. It's humid, it's muggy. And I'm out there 4 or 5 hours on a track looking for this two guys that got in a gunfight. We're following blood trails. I'm carrying my full kit. I got my medic bag on the back. I have my rifle, and we're hopping fences. We're in one of the fences we hopped. I'm like, oh, let me jump over this fence the way that me and Katie do for the tactical game. And it's like, okay, I'm going to preserve my energy, because I'm looking down the street. I'm like, there's 20 fences up ahead. I can't just, go full blown. So eventually we find the guy. We find the house. But all these positions that I've done in tactical games, I used in real life. So here we go. I ended up kind of like pretty much a barricade until this guy comes out. You're holding rifle coverage for 2 hours. Like, you're not going to be able to do that unless you're comfortable with different positions. So, and that's my experience though. Small little things that you learn in competition, they're not really like, it's not necessarily the big picture, but it's like I can use these skills I learned in competition to apply them in real life.
Exactly. It's not maybe a direct transference of skills, but or tactics, I should say, but you're developing those skills that are transferable into the real world. Even things like you alluded to, like slowing down your heart rate a little bit and being used to performing and getting accurate hits under stress, right? In the tactical games, it's not just comfortable, like you're not breathing like we're sitting here breathing now. I mean, you're huffing and puffing, and you're rocking and rolling, running and gunning. So that does translate, being inured to performing under that stress, even though that stress is considerably different than life and death stress, but it's almost like you said earlier, it's the way that you can sort of practice without anyone getting hurt. It's almost like a way to spar in martial arts, right? I mean, it's a way that you can, it's not the ultimate test of your skills, but it's a way to test your skills and measure improvement and performance. So no, that's great stuff. So Katie, you excelled obviously in the tactical games, and a lot of that I'm assuming initially was probably because of your level of fitness, because it sounds like you were a very new shooter when you first started, but then like in a year you've become a national champion. So how the heck does that happen? I mean, I know a lot of credit goes to Ivan, but a lot of credit goes to you. And I just wonder, like, how much time are you devoting to training? Like, how do you go from the level that you were at to the level that you're at now in such a short time frame?
Yeah, that's a great question. It surprised me too, because I never thought from day one, zero experience with firearms, to a year later, being on top of the podium in the women's tactical division at nationals, that never crossed my mind. But I really do have to give most of the credit to Ivan. He really did. Like I do. Yeah. My background is fitness, but I wasn't as fit as I am now by any means. So I have put in double the work in the last few years to get to where I am now. And from that aspect, it's a lot on me. I've always been dedicated in that aspect of my life, but Ivan from day one taught me everything I know about competitive shooting. I honestly haven't taken classes from anyone else, any other training courses. It's all been him.
If it ain't broke, you know what they say.
Exactly. Yeah. And honestly, like he truly believed in me from day one. I remember after my very first competition, a couple of days later, he texted me, and I saved this message in my phone for the whole year. And he doesn't know this, but it said, "I believe you have what it takes, and I'm willing to take you as far as you want to go." And like that's all I needed was just like one person to believe in me that much. And if there was anyone I didn't want to let down more than myself, it was him. I was telling him, like, I just don't want to let you down. So I'll never be able to thank him enough for the amount of time that he devoted to helping me train, because any chance I got, I was texting him like, can we train this weekend? Can we train during the week? You know, tell me what days you have off. So I know he lost sleep a lot to put in those hours with me.
Ivan, what'd you think when Katie first came to you? Like, did you have any idea that she would be where she's at now?
I'm being completely honest with you. I did. There was just something. It was. I don't know how to explain it. It's like when you see something, you're like that. It's there. Whatever it is, she had it, and I just knew it needed to be kind of like tweaked, right? Just be taught the technique, because I can tell you, like Katie is the one that gets me training. She's the one that gets me in the gym. I'm afraid to lose to her because it's you know,
yeah.
And she'll get me sometimes, you know, and she knows it, right? So she's just insane. Her work ethic, her ability to, if I tell her, hey, let's do this, she applies it on the spot. And I've taken that to build myself, my fitness, my shooting, the way I teach, the way I learn. A lot of it is kind of revolved around like, what would Katie do? You know, if we can make T-shirts, let's put Katie's face on it. But yeah, I knew pretty early on, just watching her battle with herself. Her shooting wasn't great, but her drive to just be there on frigid mornings or like the blistering heat, she was always there. To the point Katie kind of touched on this, like with my schedule, like I'm on call a lot for two different teams. So a lot of the times when I would train her, I'd be coming off 16-hour shift. I'd wake up, 2 hours of sleep, train her, go back at it again. But it was kind of that drive that she had to be the best. And I truly think that in my eyes, she's the best, but we gotta show it on the actual leaderboard.
Yeah. But if she's not training that day, it's not because she didn't ask to go train that day. It's because you're at work or what. Yeah. That's great. Cause a lot of people that we coach or whatever, you sort of have to motivate them. Well, it sounds like that's not a problem with Katie. She's going to be ready to go out there, and it's going to be up to you to wake up, after a short night's sleep or whatever the case is. That's awesome. I wonder, and either of you can answer this, or both of you, I wonder if it was beneficial, Katie coming to you already super fit, but not having a blank slate when it comes to firearms, because Katie's not having to unlearn stuff, and Ivan, you're not having to break her of old habits type of thing. I mean, do you think there's any validity to that idea that maybe her not having experience with firearms could have actually been beneficial?
Yeah, I'll let Katie kind of speak from her perspective first, because I have thought about this a lot, and then I want to actually touch on the actual coaching perspective.
Yeah, I definitely think that set me up for success, is just not having any prior experience. So I was a completely blank slate and just completely open to learning whatever it was that he was teaching me. There was never a point that I questioned really what the techniques or drills or anything. I was just kind of take what he told me and practice that. And it worked. So I think being a blank slate and just completely open to learning something new was certainly helpful.
You're describing the best student. Like everybody hopes that we get a student with that mentality. So yeah, that's awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can't ask for a better student. But uh, from the coaching perspective, this is where it's been a journey for me, right? Because you have someone like Katie that you tell her do this, she's going to do it. So for me, the stress is, am I giving her the most up to date information? Am I teaching her the proper technique? Have my techniques been pressure tested and vetted? And I have changed the way I shoot, how the way I view shooting, the concepts that I thought were foundational. I know now to be categorically false. So my shooting progression has changed a lot based on, because if I'm going to tell Katie to do something, then I need to make sure. And when I started Ortac and I met Katie, it was like that hybrid approach. Like I just started competitively shooting, and a lot of my training came from law enforcement. And like you wear the heavy uniform, right? Like you are SWAT because you wear this uniform, or you've been part of the best units on your department. And to me, like that uniform needs to be earned every day. But I was stuck in this trap of like, well, the only shooting I know is from the police world, and now that I'm being tested competitively, I'm not doing this because I think I should. So those are the techniques I kind of had to study on my own. I learned from the greats up there, like all the YouTube names. I read up on a bunch of books on shooting. I went to all my local competitions, whether it was USPSA, PCSL. I signed up for a bunch of tactical games, and I kept pressure testing these techniques, and I'm always out there on the range. Like if I was coaching Katie for 2 hours, I was out there for 6 hours trying to make sure that what I'm passing along is valid. And it's been very cool to see that it has. I mean, Katie's first year of competition, I like to say this, like Katie's never known defeat. Um, she played herself one time, and I'll let her get into that if she wants to. But as far as her competitive career, like she's always been at the top, and I think that's to me that's where I want to keep her. So when I think about training and concepts, I want to stay up to date on everything I'm passing along.
Yeah, that's great. And you're hitting on something there that I think is very important, that when you look back at what you were doing from a shooting perspective, or, this can be, martial arts, it could be really translated to any endeavor. But if you're still doing things exactly the same as you were a decade ago, it probably means that you haven't continued to progress and learn, and you haven't evolved, right? I mean, I doubt anyone has all the answers, and 10 years later, they don't want to change anything. I mean, that's someone who's just content, not someone who's striving to continually improve. So, and I would imagine it's got to be super gratifying to you to put in all that work, and then you see it playing out with Katie's success, and that's awesome. A great teacher-student relationship, and really like a partner relationship, because she's, even though you taught her to shoot, she is inspiring you to continue to evolve as well. So I could see how that works.
Right.
All right. So one of the things I want to talk about, Ivan, is how do you balance putting in all those hours at the PD, training, coaching, having your own training business? I mean, do you sleep or what? How's it work?
It's tough. I think to be quite honest with you, it's powered by a whole lot of caffeine in a dream.
Yeah.
That's what gets me going. Like I love what I do. So going to work doesn't feel like work. And granted, like everything else, like there's some days I don't really want to be there, but the guys that you show up to work, they're great. And then training, like the company, the people that I train, like Katie and all of our students here, they inspire me, right? Everyone has a little piece of them. I'm like, I want to be there. My time off really is on the range. Like that's where I'm the happiest. And the people in my life know that. And sometimes that gets me in trouble, especially with my girlfriend. But yeah, she's very supportive. But to answer your question, I mean, there's 24 hours in a day, and I try to make the best of them.
You're doing it. Katie, how has your fitness regimen changed, if at all, now that you're such a serious competitor in the tactical games? Like, how has it changed from what you did before you started shooting?
Well, prior to training for tactical games and shooting sports, I've done CrossFit since college, on and off. But to be honest, I just did like little local competitions here and there. I never had anything serious that I was pushing towards, and you kind of tend to just get complacent and feel like you never are really pushing those boundaries. And now that I have something specific that I am training for, and I've moved up to the elite division, which is pretty much the only thing difference in the different divisions is the weight that we're lifting. So I've never been the strongest athlete out there. I never will be the strongest athlete out there, but I spend a lot of time in the gym working on just big lifts, like lifting as heavy as I can. I've always been more of an endurance athlete, so I can go out for a long run and do pretty well with that, or suffer through a long workout. But when it comes to like pure strength and power, that's where I spend a lot of my time trying to progress. So just having a competition lined up every month or every other month really gives me the motivation to keep pushing and keep driving. And there's a lot of other females in the sport that really inspire me too with their fitness levels. So just trying to keep up and be as strong as I can.
That's cool. And you're training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well?
Well, I just started that, so that's very new.
Okay.
But
I won't ask you a bunch about that then.
as if I needed anything else to train for, but it kind of just like came along through another friend, and I just wanted to like try something new, and it's something different than I've ever done before, but it's definitely kind of gives me some good mental strategies when it comes to shooting too. So
Sure.
like you just gotta like stay calm, breathe, figure out what the next step is. Like don't you can't solve everything with just pure brute strength and force. So it's helped me in that aspect a lot.
Very well said. So this is for either of you guys or both of you guys. When you're training for the tactical games, are you training oftentimes like in the gym and then at the range, or are you able to kind of combine those things? Like how often are you able to train in a very similar manner that you would compete? In other words, where you have all the equipment out there on the range and that sort of thing. Is that something that you only do periodically, or is that what you do most of the time?
Weekly, to be honest with you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the way that I've kind of my dad and I were the ones that kind of had this vision for ORTAC is we wanted to have all the equipment out there, whether it's sandbags, whether it's yokes, the shooting. Right now we are located in Remington, Virginia. That's where we're doing the majority of our operation. We're shooting out of my best friend's range that me and him are putting up together, this Blue Gray Training Center. So we have distance, we have the equipment out there, we're shooting paper steel. So a lot of these courses that you'll see there, whether it's USPSA, PCSL, or tactical games, we're creating them on a weekly basis in the form of classes, whether 2-hour classes or 7 to 8 hour courses. So I try to get people as most realistic reps as possible. Like, theory's theory. At the end of the day, you're going to have to apply it. You're going to have to feel what it, understand what it feels like to lift a 200-pound bag, to move your body, and then to shoot tiny targets.
Yeah. I competed in my first, I say competed loosely because I wasn't competitive, but I did my first NLR Hunter match recently. And it was very confusing. If I was good at math, I wouldn't have been a cop. You know what I mean? So they're giving us all these formulas and all this stuff, and it's over my head. But once we got out there and we started actually shooting like mock stages and stuff, I'm like, okay, I sort of get it now. And I think that you're hitting on an important point that you can know a lot and you could even be good at all these individual tasks. But the real challenge comes to putting that all together. And so I guess by training the way you are like that, you're giving your students the best chance to succeed. So yeah, you're onto something there.
Oh yeah, but just put them right in the fire. They'll figure it out.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about ORTAC, which it's Origin Tactical Training, and ORTAC is short acronym for that.
Yeah. So we started as Origin, and kind of changed the name to go with ORTAC. It just sounded better. ORTAC ended up being like a brief, like short for Origin, but early on we started with a couple. There was more chefs in the kitchen, and one of the names that was settled on is Origin. And I come from jiu-jitsu background as well.
Okay.
So shout out to Leo Dalla, the Big Brothers competition team out here in Virginia. But yeah, we switched the name to ORTAC, and then The idea was how, because here's my passion, to be frank. I wanted to put more guns in people's hands, more American hands, but get rid of the stigma where it's like it's serious, it's super dangerous. Like turn shooting like fun, just like anything. If you're gonna train like even if you make something fun, that's how you get proficient at it. Because then you get addicted to the process. It's less about the actual like the gun going off in your hand. It's more about the metric of like, oh, how can I be better? Now I'm laughing. I got friends behind me during stage. They're making fun of me because I made a mistake. I'm making fun of them, and that culture. And Katie knows that sometimes I rag on her a lot during when we compete together. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of arm more Americans. I believe that responsible gun ownership is an American duty. It's not even a privilege. Like you should own a firearm. You should be responsible as an American, and you should make it fun so you can get better. You can get proficient.
Yeah, I think that's important. I've done some, lifelong martial artist too, and I've done some seminars over the years, and sometimes it's kind of like a more serious or doom and gloom type of thing. Like if you don't learn this, you're going to get mugged or you're going to get kidnapped or raped or whatever. But if you can make that more fun and still empowering, I'm not saying it's just a goof off session, but if you can make it fun, they're going to do better. And I think that relates to anything, especially like, you remember as a new cop, I'm sure you had field training officers that were just absolute monsters. And then you're not doing as well as you know you could do because you're so worried about this dude breathing down your neck and taking notes about every little thing you do wrong. So yeah, I always try to create an environment where the students are relaxed so that they can perform optimally. I mean, that's your goal, is to get them to perform their absolute best. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So Katie, for people that well, let me ask you this. And I know this is a question that there's not a simple answer to, but how do you encourage, or how would you facilitate someone to get to a level of fitness that they could be competitive in a sport as demanding as the tactical games? Like what types of things physically do they need to work on? And I know that changes depending on each person, is going to have differences, but what types of things do you think are most relevant?
Yeah. So from a physical standpoint, what I love about the tactical games is you kind of have to be generally good at a lot of things. Like you can be super strong, but if you have no engine and no endurance, then you're probably not going to do great. And if you can run 10 miles, but you can't necessarily lift a heavy sandbag, then you're also probably not going to do great. So when it comes to physical fitness, I think hitting all the bases of like making sure you have enough endurance to get through, let's say like a 3 to 4 mile ruck run. And then obviously there's different divisions and they have a pretty well like set out standards for what you have to lift for each division. But if you can get yourself a couple different weights of sandbags, some kettlebells, like doing farmer's carries grip strength is huge in the tactical game. So being able to carry, climb, and just maintain that grip strength for those activities too. That's a big one. And a lot of the workouts are very back intensive. So carrying heavy sandbags, lifting them over walls. I do a lot of deadlifts. That's like, I don't know, 50% of my training is just deadlift and lifting heavy sandbags to build up my back strength. And because it's usually what's going to go first. And sled drags, that's another one. So working on just power through the legs. We encounter all different variations of sleds too.
Yeah, if you see Katie's legs, she's 4'3", so
yeah. Mine, it looks like I'm riding a chicken. But maybe you could talk a little bit, and either one of you, or you can maybe tag team this one. But what might a typical tactical games stage look like?
Well, I think what shows up a lot is, we'll take like sandbags, for instance. It'll be like a 15-minute workout, and you'll have you're doing 4 iterations of a certain movement. And let's say you're asked to move a certain weighted sandbag from point A to point B, and then climb a rope, and then you go and shoot. And then you're typically shooting, you have a certain firing sequence, which will be explained to you, but you'll shoot rifle, and then you'll shoot pistol, and then you'll go back to work, and you'll complete another sequence of that work, and then shoot again. And you're judged based on how long it takes you to complete the entire workout, and then also missed shots are typically time penalties. That's standard, but there are variations in different stages, and they're coming out with a lot of new and interesting, fun, exciting stages too that are a little bit different. But Ivan, I don't know if you have any better example.
No, that's well said. It comes down to time plus penalties for the scoring. For the structure of the stages are move this, suffer here, shoot this, cry about why you missed there. And then I like to explain it as type B fun. Like you're not really having the best time of your life while you're on the stage, but maybe like a month later, you're like, oh, that was a great time.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine you guys are very used to shooting kind of shaky and, all fatigued. Whereas a lot of people, they miss that component of their training and they just get out there and there's really no stress, and even if there's the stress of the timer, that's different than the stress of you just did this workout and now you got to maybe run into position and now you got to focus and now you got to do these fine motor skills, right? Like a trigger press and these types of things, even like a reloading a pistol or whatever, those fine motor skills, that's more difficult to do when you're incorporating those gross motor skills like moving sandbags or climbing a rope and all that stuff. So and in that sense, I think that's extremely transferable. I think that's extremely real world, even though the tactical games is a game. And the tactical, like you said, Ivan, that's what it's called, but it's not overly tactical. It's not like SWAT training, right? But no, I think that's a great thing that you guys are experiencing. And I bet that if you go there and you go to the range and just shoot, you're like, wow, this is easy, right? I mean, compared to doing all the physical stuff that usually precedes having to make those accurate hits.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, I love it. I love to push myself. I love to suffer. So that's why I do it.
What kind of gear do you guys use as far as pistol, rifle? Obviously, you guys are team Aimpoint, so Aimpoint optics, I'm imagining. But what type of gear do you guys use for the tactical games?
Yeah, obviously, Aimpoint optics is even if we weren't shooting I'll speak for myself. I found Aimpoint through work. These are the optics that I trusted my life to as a patrol cop, as a detective. And then put it this way, we switched Aimpoints in about a small portion of my career. So we went to a different manufacturer. It failed me at the worst possible moment where it was a life or death moment where that optic failed. From then on, I said, I will never shoot anything other than Aimpoint again. And that was before Team Aimpoint. That was before like my competitive thing. So that's kind of what led me here. But Aimpoint optics for like pistol, because they can that P2, like it's been beat up. It's been in the mud. It's been in the sand. It's been in the snow. I have yet to break the glass. The original one that I got is still on the gun. They're robust. Exactly what you need for the sport. Like this isn't USPSA where you can show up to a stage, you have a pristine gun, and then you're going to shoot it with, perfect sunny day, and it's just going to run like this in these conditions. I can speak for South Carolina. We just competed in. It was rain. It was muddy. Like it was, and we need those optics to perform in that environment and our gear in general. So red dots, Aimpoint. I really like the Night Force LPDOs. Those have been fantastic for me. I shoot LWRC, so LWRC is another one of my sponsors. I love their rifles. Same story. I work with their guns, so I trust my life to those rifles. That's what I shoot for competition.
Yeah, if it's good enough to trust your life to on duty, it's good enough to compete with.
Exactly. Yeah.
Katie, how about you? What equipment are you running?
For me, my pistol, I shoot a Staccato XL, which I like. Ivan has his own issues with them, but I haven't had any issues with mine. I love it. It's a great competition gun. It feels nice and heavy in my hand. The grip is great for me. And then obviously I have the Aimpoint P2 on top of that, which has been very beat up as well, but hasn't given me any issues. And has not failed me in competition. And then my rifle, I shoot a Daniel Defense with a Night Force attacker 1-8 on there, and then the offset, another Acro P2 on there too. So
Nice.
I love using that rifle for both tactical games and then PCSL 2-gun matches too, using that offset for those faster transitions has been really fun to train with.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, videos, clips of the tactical games, man, you guys are putting that equipment to the test. Everything is dirty and dusty and getting knocked around, and yeah, it's not like you're just standing upright, like so. Yeah, that's good. You got to have good gear for sure. Now, other than a pistol and a rifle, I mean, it doesn't seem like a sport that you're going to have to, and obviously ammunition, but you can get into it at a relatively, I shouldn't say inexpensive because everybody's idea of that's different, but you don't have to buy a ton of equipment. And once you buy it, other than the ammo, you're pretty much set, right?
Absolutely. I think the cost for admission into the sport is relative. Like, I don't think it's an expensive equipment sport to get into. I will say it's expensive for skills, if that makes sense. Like the demand for
to develop the skills, you mean?
Right. Like for example, USPSA, right? You can walk in with your carry gun and you can shoot the stage and you're good. For tactical games, you can walk in with your pistol, rifle, save all, budget options. They're great guns, but the skill demand is up here, right? Like it's the first time I've heard of, like, you listen to people talk. It's the first time people are like, wow, I've never shot that far, or I've never shot something that small. I've never worked out with a gun in my hand, or I've never worked out to get a gun. So I think that the skill being the most expensive thing, that it's a hard sport to get into, but I want more people in there because I want the sport to grow. I want the sport to keep developing. We're still, in my opinion, we're still in its infancy, but it's something that I'm passionate about.
What about holsters? What holsters do you guys use?
So Katie and I use the same holster. Right now we are using Hammer Armament.
Okay.
And basically just a holster with a hood on it. You need some kind of retention. This is what I tell people all the time. They'll show up to train to one of our ORTAC fit classes, which is our athletic 2-gun training, where we train for all, like, whether it's tactical games or Patriot games is another great competition. They put on a great match. I love those guys too. But people show up to classes without a retention on their holster. Like, oh, if my gun's never fallen out of my holster. I watched a guy in my school, my heat, drop his gun during a live stage, and that was it. Goodbye, thanks for playing. And I felt so bad, but you hate to see it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go out that way.
But no, retention is important as a cop. And as a private citizen, usually we're carrying concealed. So concealment is our primary form of retention. But yeah, when you're competing and doing crazy stuff like that, I say crazy, it's to you guys, it's just a Tuesday, but climbing ropes and throwing things around and running and all that stuff. Yeah, you got to have something that's going to contain that pistol in there. And so as we start to get toward the end here, I wonder if you can tell me, Ivan, what skills do you think, or what do you think are the main differences and maybe some similarities between like the type of training that you would do as a tactical officer and the type of training you do for the tactical games? Like, do you view one here and one here, or are they very close, or where do you see that?
So this is a conversation that I have a lot. And I think as a culture, right, coming from a law enforcement background, we tend to just confuse what we're actually doing, right? So to answer your question the simplest way possible, fitness is fitness, right? And shooting is shooting. There is, and this is my humble opinion, there's no difference between tactical shooting and then practical shooting or real shooting. Like the skills are there. Like you have to be able to pull the trigger aggressively. None of this, prep press. When speed is the demand. If it comes to accuracy, work on the trigger press, your sights, and all that for accuracy demands. But there is this, for whatever reason, we've stymied the growth in the police culture when we start to introduce all these convoluted ideas about tactical shooting. Shooting is shooting. We wouldn't like jog 3 miles, right? And we're not going to do it in our kit with our cruiser next to us because it's more realistic. But we do it for shooting, right? Like we confuse going into a room. Like I'm not the most tactical guy out there, but at the end of the day, you're walking into a room, you're processing the room. And if there's a shoot that needs to happen, you need to rely on your skills to make that shot. That's simple.
Yeah, that's interesting, brother, because it's like shooting is shooting and tactics are tactics. And you're going to change your tactics based on what your goal is. If you're competing in the tactical games, you're going to be doing one thing, which is to try to get the most hits in the least amount of time, versus, even though that's still your goal, even in a defensive shooting or in a law enforcement shooting, it's still relevant. But yeah, I wonder if there's things that, for instance, in some of the shooting sports, you may, for the sake of speed, conduct a reload while you're moving from one position to another position. Whereas on the street, that's not probably the best idea. You'd probably want to remain behind cover while you reload your pistol and then move. So how about that? Are you saying that that's all sort of tactics and the shooting kind of stands alone? I think that's what you're saying, which makes sense to me.
Well, isolating like that specific scenario, right? Like you have an instance where, let's just say for the sake of argument, in this picture that we're painting, is you're in an engagement, a real life environment. The decision has been made. I need to reload either behind cover or reload my way out of cover, right? And at the end of the day, you can't shoot if there's no bullets in the gun. So competitive shooting, I think Tom Castro says this, like bullets first mentality. Like make sure the gun is up and running, because if there's no bullets in the gun, you can't shoot. But even simpler than that is you have two things happening. You have a reload that needs to happen. So be proficient in your reloads, and then be proficient having your gun up. Those two things. And then when it comes to cover and concealment, is you got to be intelligent enough to know that this is going to stop bullets and that's not. And if you don't have cover and you only have concealment, or if you don't have neither, you better start running with that gun as hard as you can.
Yeah.
And that's competitive shooting, right? Like that's what we do. We sprint with a loaded gun to open targets. And I stand by that. Like, I don't really think that there is a tactical shooting. There's only skills that need to be developed. So when things go south, you're like, oh, I know this skill. Case in point.
They can augment your shooting, but the shooting doesn't change. Yeah.
There's nothing mutually exclusive about tactical shooting. Like it's all shooting. If you're going to reload, you're going to shoot, you're going to slap the trigger. If you're going to slap the trigger, make sure you're gripping the gun appropriately. Like this is another thing that we say when we teach here is early on, I was taught don't slap the trigger. I'm like, you're going to slap the trigger. You talk to anybody who's been in the shooting, they slap the trigger, right? So if you're going to do that, might as well grab the gun appropriately.
No, that makes sense. Katie, I wonder, when you first started shooting a pistol, did you shoot initially with a red dot, or was it irons first?
No, I definitely learned irons first. Probably for the first at least 3 months I was shooting a Glock at the time. And from day one, I learned on irons, and as anyone should. I think that's definitely the right way to start out. And I didn't start shooting a red dot until about maybe a month before my first event. And funny enough, during that first event, my red dot came flying off my gun during a stage. So I resorted back to shooting irons, and thankfully I had been trained that way. So I did pretty well.
That's great. And people do say that, and that can happen, but I can't tell you how many front sights I've seen fly out too when someone comes out of the holster. So all equipment can fail. So, but I wonder your thoughts, Katie, when you first started using a red dot on a pistol, what'd you think of it? Were you immediately like a believer, or did it take some time to get used to the differences?
It definitely took a little bit of time to get used to like adjusting like your vision with that red dot and trying to stay target focused, because you want to just stare at the dot.
Yes.
Obviously, it just draws you in. So we did a lot of different drills to kind of work on learning how to stay target focused. So like Ivan would put tape over my dot so that I could, maintain my vision on target. And we worked on various scenarios that helped me to get used to it. And obviously now I prefer to shoot with a red dot, but if ever needed, I can go back to irons pretty easily.
That's great. Ivan, how about you, brother? I would imagine you have a lot of time on irons before you ever had a red dot on your pistol. How was that for you transitioning to the red dot?
Oh, like it wasn't an easy transition.
Yeah. It's almost like the more time you have, the harder it is not to use that red dot like a front sight.
Absolutely. And it's especially my first couple hours on it. I'm like, man, like how am I going to be faster? How am I going to be more accurate? Like I'm losing my dot. It was a nightmare. But just like anything else, like you have to recognize you're really bad at something if you want to get good at something. So that's what I did. Like I just put it in perspective. Like there's guys way better than me doing this way faster and more accurately. So there's something to this. I still work with an iron sight gun. Like we're coming to an end of that in our career. So we are transitioning to red dots now, I think coming as of August, if I'm not mistaken. So we are catching up to the times. So I compete with red dots. I work with iron sights. So I still train both. And to be honest with you, I treat my iron sight gun like a red dot gun now because there's times to be target focused with an iron sight gun as well. And I think that's something that I've been passing along to whether my SWAT team or my team as more commonly known as a jump out team. So it's just taking that idea of like you don't always need to be hard front sight focus, equal height, equal light. Just context matters.
I 100% agree with that. And also, I've talked to some pro shooters who I can't hold accountable to what they can do. And they've also told me that there's a time that you do use a red dot in the same fashion that you would use a front sight, when you have that distance and you have to make a precise shot. So I think that we're used to like extremes like this or this, all or nothing, but really a lot of that has to do with the immediacy of the threat or the target, the how close the target is, how big the target is, and things like that. So very, very good stuff. I've noticed that as I've gotten older, a red dot is way easier for me. I mean, I could still hit upper chest, decent groups at 25 yards, especially like when I'm doing a gun review and I'm braced, we're trying to get the accuracy results for a particular pistol. But it's just, if I shoot with irons, it'll be like this. And if I shoot with a red dot, it's just way better because I have a hard time transitioning. Like I can see the irons with glasses with magnification, but then the target is just a blur. And I don't mean like the target is sort of fuzzy. I mean, no, like I have no idea where I'm aiming on the target. So yeah, as you get older, you guys will appreciate the red dot even more, I think. So
yeah, that's what my dad says that too. My dad has a heavy Spanish accent. He says the same thing. He'll just look at me and be like, man, I don't know if I can see these iron sights as good anymore.
Yeah, I'm with your dad on that one.
Yeah.
Katie, what if someone wants to be like more capable physically, mentally, tactically, to be able to perhaps start competing in the tactical games or something? What's sort of like a first step? What do they need to get a base level of fitness first, or should they start shooting first? And then Ivan, you feel free to chime in on this as well. But what if someone's interested but they don't know where to start? What do they do?
Yeah, that's the hardest part, is figuring out how to start, and it can be really, really intimidating at first. But I would say, honestly, find people that have similar interests and have, similar goals in mind, and just surround yourself with those people and hang out with them as much as you can, and learn from them. But as far as like fitness or shooting, I would say, honestly, a little bit of both. Like, work on them simultaneously. Find a gym. Whether it doesn't have to be a CrossFit gym, it can be any gym, but just start building your physical capacity, especially with like functional fitness. And then find someone who competes in shooting sports, because you can take any just basic pistol rifle classes from any certified instructor, but if they're not actually competing and they're not actually in the game and know the game and have firsthand experience with that, then you're not necessarily going to get as far as you want. So I would say find those people and just kind of stick by them, annoy them.
Well, it's worked for you. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. Ivan, anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a hard sport to get into. So it takes a community. You're going to need a team, whether it's people that like shoot with people that are better than you, train with people that are better than you, that can beat you up in the gym. This is, even though you're out there, they have team divisions, but the way I view it is, even though you're out there competing as an individual, it really is a team sport. And when we go compete, like there's probably 12, maybe 16 of us, that depending on these events, just representing like, ORTAC and Aimpoint. So we're looking out for each other. We're feeding each other. We're making sure people are hydrated. We're making sure we're staying out of the sun, out of the rain. It takes a village kind of thing. So that's my advice.
Yeah, you got that camaraderie going, and yeah, very cool stuff. Well, is there anything you guys would like to add as we sort of wind down here? I mean, it's been a very interesting conversation. You guys, this is the first podcast we've done with two people on it, but hey, I think we've done a good job.
Oh yeah. This is the best podcast I've ever been on. Also my first one. So
you guys are easy to work with. So, Hey, I appreciate you guys joining us today. Where can people go to follow what you guys have going on?
Yeah, so follow at Ortec USA on Instagram if you want to keep up with our shenanigans. Again, we do classes and courses. Classes being 2 hours, courses being 7 hours and above here in Virginia. Katie's one of our instructors too, so she can help you out. I'm sure she'll give you her Instagram handle. But as far as gear, like Aimpoint's the best. Sorry, not sorry. Those are your optics for your rifle, LWRC. True North Concepts. Those guys are awesome. That's what I use for my attachments, where like my MHA adapter for my holster for my gun and all that to keep everything sturdy. I use their attachments for my rifle. JK boots. They make awesome boots for when you're not on the range. Oh, actually, I teach them too. So that's all I got to say about the kind of the gear and the teams that support me.
Very cool.
Yeah, for me, if you follow Ortec USA on Instagram, you'll find me pretty quickly. But my Instagram handle is Katie_B_DPT. So you can find me on there. I'm always pretty much full tactical games, shooting, sports, and fitness, from just videos of me training in the gym or at the range, or us goofing off at different events and the fun, exciting Aimpoint things that we have going on. Starting to do a lot of traveling and exciting things with that too. So follow us on there and keep up with what we're doing. It's going to be exciting.
Thank you guys so much for being here today. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go team Aimpoint.
Forever. Aimpoint. I got gang signs for that stuff.
All right, guys, that's a wrap for this episode with Katie and Ivan. If this episode resonated with you, be sure and let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Aimpoint's Taking Aim podcast. We'll see you next time.